Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Greenberg, Chief Design Officer from ironSource. It's my first time in Sweden, actually. It's a great opportunity for me. Thank you for Patrick for inviting me. So when I got this opportunity, I took it forward. I was also really happy to be here. And before coming here, I did a bit of research about Sweden, okay, and about Mag Interactive. And my problem in my research is that I didn't know it's going to be an event without shoes. So unfortunately, I have new socks, but it's not cool socks. So it's kind of embarrassing. But the second thing I did is I read about the Jantelagen. Jantelagen? How you say it? Okay, which was super interesting for me to learn about these rules. It was also really interesting for me because it is so different from where I'm coming. I'm from Tel Aviv, from Israel, and for us, if you look at the Israelagen, okay, it's kind of different, okay. So you're not special. I'm pretty special. My mom tells me all the time, okay. Second thing, we're not good as we are. We are the chosen people. Okay? From the moment you're born, you're told that you are the chosen people, so it makes sense, right? I'm also smarter because I'm from the people of the book, right? So Jews and Christians, we are the people of the book, right? And I don't imagine I'm better, I know I'm better. And it continues on and on, so all of this, right? Laughing about us, okay, so that's probably a problem. Again, chosen people and the one I really like and nobody cares about you. Wait, I will tell you about myself. Okay, so the reason I added this is because of the first slide. I didn't know if you know ironSource, so I want to take this opportunity to tell you about us, so you'd care. Okay, so ironSource, we were established 10 years ago, a bit like Mag Interactive. We're 830 employees all over the world, based in Tel Aviv, so biggest HQ in Tel Aviv with 650. I'm from Tel Aviv. I'm in the company already 9 years, one of the first employees. To get a bit sense about the size of ironSource, so this is AppsFire Index. In global gaming, we're in the top 5, ranked 4, I think, last quarter. In some categories, like mid-core games in America, we're even first, above Facebook and Google, which is, for us, is super impressive and great to be there. We're 100% focused on games. Okay, ironSource is all about games. We don't do any other type of media, so it gives us a very big advantage. And our biggest product is the ad mediation platform that allows us, game developers to mediate between all of the ad sources. And we're already seeing over 500 million daily active users within our platform. Okay, so we have a very wide reach and work with probably, I think, 100% of game companies out there. Okay, so this is my view on the market. As Patrick said, I want to talk about what I call the year of the disaster, okay? It's going to be a very high-level overview of... it's really nice to be in socks when you're here, by the way. It feels very homey. It's going to be a very high overview about the market, okay, and things that you're probably seeing. I'm going to make it, I think, as relevant to anyone who's also here developing a game. It's not just about marketing, so be with me. It's going to be very long and hard. So, in the end of January, a year ago, this game was launched, Matchington Mansion, which is now owned by AppLovin. It was a complete copycat of Playrix's best-selling game, Homescapes, but their marketing approach was very different from anything that Homescapes used up to that point. So this is how, this is the playbook that we did for Homescapes when they launched, which was very positive. It was focusing on building, simulation, calm, slow, and this was before Mansion did their thing and took over the market. And this is what they did after, okay? How they switched all of the marketing to be negative, save your house, urgent, fast, like everything switched. So if you take this kind of technique, okay, that worked really well for Matchington Mansion, and then also for Homescapes that adapted very quickly to the changes in the market, is known as scare advertising. Okay, it's a very old technique from eons ago in advertising, and this is Homescapes before Matchington Mansion, and this is after. okay? It's used everywhere. It's not just in games. So we learned that Trump has a higher conversion, and this is life, right? To go back to our world, right? The basic formula all of us know, we want to make sure that our eCPI is lower than the LTV of the users that we're bringing in, so we'll be profitable and can scale the game. The problem also, as you all know, is that eCPIs and the LTV itself is very limited. It's very hard to scale. Usually means that you have to improve your retention, improve your rebalance your economy. In like heavy games, you know better than me even how hard and slow process it is. On the other hand, we have what we call the IPM range. So IPM is the metric that we use internally to measure the marketability of a game. It's the number of installs for 1,000 impressions of an ad. Okay, so it kind of detaches all of the factors of bid. It's just the conversion of the actual ad. So this is the IPM range. So 1,000 impressions and how many installs. 9.4 is the network average. Okay, so a game on average on outsourced network gets 9 installs from 1,000 impressions. By the way, for your specific category, it's around 3 to 4. Okay, so kind of to understand where we at puzzle games and word games, and I will talk about it in a second again. 152 is the network all-time record. Okay, so you can already see the crazy gap between two games which are running on the same network. Okay, there are games that can achieve 150 and even more in specific countries. Per 1,000 impressions of the ad, okay? These are mainly hyper-casual games they're probably getting that are reaching a mass audience and have very high conversion, but you can imagine the effect on the eCPI, okay? We have internally, our goal is 200 is Optimus Prime, so the first one who's getting 200 is gonna win. By the way, our previous Optimus Prime was 100, so it's already gone. And there's also, of course, God mode, which is 1,000 installs for 1,000 impressions, which is probably we won't see in my days, but it's getting higher and higher. Okay, so this kind of illustrates to you the current situation of different games running out there and doing their marketing. This is what. Okay. This is how it looks like in a scale of 2 years. So the past 2 years, you can see the IPMs are going up. This is actually the updated number. This is Q4. The average is already 17, okay? And you can see it goes up. It's connected to a lot of factors. So first of all, of course, better targeting, better algorithms, but also more people are downloading and testing games, like are exposed to ads and are trying new games. So this is good for the market. Stronger devices, more memory on devices. So it's a combination of a lot of stuff, but you can see the trend also. And of course, hyper-casual and more like sophisticated marketing that improves IPM. And this is the reverse effect it has on CPIs. Okay, so if you have higher IPMs, higher conversion, meaning you need to pay less per install. So you can see also the market, this is 2019. You can see the kind of the reverse effect that it has. In order to help our advertisers perform better and do better marketing, we established an in-house creative studio called Playworks. It's a team of 38 people. We work with over 200 advertisers. We produced over 4,000 creatives, playables interactives. And we're running almost $400 million of spend so far in the past 2 years on creatives that we did that outperformed creatives that we got from the game companies. Okay, so we work against the internal studios because everybody wins. This is the team. Usually he's more happy, but here was a bit sad. So it's a very big team. By the way, it's a very cool combination. In that team, we have designers, we have analysts, we have creatives, we have game designers, motion designers, analysts. Everyone sits together. So it's a well-rounded team. It's not just creative, which is shipped. We track, we do performance for all of our creatives to see how they're working. We focused on 4 main types of creatives, which are the most common anyway. So playable ads, video playables, standard videos that we do, and interactive end cards that you probably know that work with videos. I'm going to talk a lot about playables or focus more about the interactive formats now, but this is the actual distribution between the different types of creative running in an hour. So you can see there's playables, 42%, video plus interactive end card 37, and standard video is 20. So it's a kind of even distribution. Sometimes there's like an assumption that maybe video is most important or playable is most important. It depends, by the way, in which company you are, on what works for your marketing team. But this is the actual reality of all campaigns, all games running. It's kind of even distribution between all types of creatives. It really depends on the execution of the specific creative and specific marketing. So we kind of touched about this in the previous ones, but in a world ruled by machines, what do we have left? So everything that can be automated within marketing is going to be automated. Okay, everything that can be machine-driven will be machine-driven. Besides probably the last one, which is creative, okay, that I'm hoping I'm going to be replaced by 2025, but probably it's going to take a bit more time because it's the hardest thing to automate, it's the hardest thing to create via machine. I want to kind of talk a bit about what makes, what is creative, what are we doing with creative. So it's a very basic thing that we take a person from a situation where I don't care about something to I want this, right? Again, one of the basic things about marketing is switching a person from a state of I don't care about this to I want this game. And I had a really cool example from a game that we got to work with a few months ago from Say Games, an hyper-casual game, that once we got this gameplay video, everybody in the studio was like really excited, right? And you look at it, trying to understand what is exciting about this, right? Is it the snow, the plowing? Maybe because we're like in a warm weather, so but this is something that is almost instantly works on most people, and decide, that's a cool game. I want to try it, right? In order to try to control that and kind of to really demystify what we're seeing, we established a lot of new, what we call in-ad metrics, in-ad data that allows us to gauge the user interest and the user behavior within the actual ad to understand why are they reacting to what are they reacting within the ad. For example, what is the CTR, the conversion rate of winning users within the ad versus losing, and which point within the video they actually clicked and installed, seeing what exactly within the ad. And we also use it to analyze and finding the sweet spot. So how much time on average it takes the user to engage with an ad, and how much time it takes them to complete the ad itself, and the probability of install. This allows us to develop features, for example, like autoplay. So if the user is not playing that playable within 3 seconds, and that's the good average time for engagement, we will autoplay the playable. Or we would also use something like sudden death if the user is playing for too long, and he might decide it's not interesting enough and go back to the original game that he's seeing. Remember that we're actually trying to take someone from one game to the other game and make them care about this and actually do an action. The thing about what great game companies understand and are beginning to understand, and there's also been a very big shift in 2019, is to understand that creative is actually within the middle of the whole experience, okay? So between the actual game, the store, the ads, so all of the decisions that you do when you kind of plan your game and try to do is already should be taken considered from the beginning, like Graham also showed in the way to define it in the beginning. And great companies who succeed today actually use that practice. You can even sometimes reverse do it if you have to. So this is an example when we reversed this, we had this game by Quali, Plank. This was the store. It was focused on the augmented reality part, probably because Apple told them to do so there would be features or something. But it didn't really represent the best theme that worked in the game, the best character that we found out within the playables. And we took it back and we redesigned the store for them and changed the icon of the game and improved the conversion by 12%. Okay, so finding what works best in the marketing and taking it back, and also putting the creative in the middle, finding the right game that will appeal to most audiences. If I didn't make it clear enough, creative is a very, very big, important factor today. This is an actual story this is an advertiser. It is, by the way, from a similar category for you. So you can see that this game is running on around 10K a day of marketing spend. And here they uploaded a new video that had a really different marketing theme that worked so great that it actually, I think, 5x'd the installs of the game. Okay, so one video made from one person in the team, 5x'd this game within the company. You can see to almost 100K a day. So it's not like a small budget. Okay, so these kind of things happen and are happening today a lot when creative is doing the right approach and finding the best way. And it's kind of become, because everything else is being automated, and this is the only thing which is still human-driven, this is probably one of the best and important levers that you have today to succeed with your game, okay? So I wanted to kind of show you how we approach creative, okay? It's a great way, I think, also as a way also when you plan a game or you design like a new game, to see how we look at it once we get it from you, okay? Which is kind of, again, lower down the funnel. So we do 5 things. Okay, first of all, we look at the category benchmarks. Okay, so remember IPM, we look at similar games, all of the similar games within that genre on data that we have running on our platform, and we can see what is the range. This is actually for example, for word games, we can see the range is between 1 to 13. Okay, so we understand that if your current marketing or current game is producing 10 installs for 1,000 impressions, so you're in a good position. If it's 2, there is a way for improve. If it's 15 or 20, you're amazing. You're like above the standard, right? And this is the way we analyze. We look at also other similar categories because this is maybe a way for us to understand where we want to shift the marketing of the game, right? Second thing that we do, we extract all of the marketing themes that we have within the game. So the game could have the core mechanics as a way to market it, but there also could be, for example, here, progression, collection, challenge. So there could be other ways we can promote the game from different parts of the actual game itself. And we see what do we have that might work, right? The third one we think about is what is the addressable audience of the specific marketing themes that we do have at the moment. So this is the amount of people in the world that like dragons. Okay, 1, maybe in the Nordics it's higher. Okay, don't want to be biased. Second, this is the amount of people who like cars, and this is the amount of people who like shiny, bouncy balls 3D. Okay, so this is, you can see also reflects, and we can do this exercise on probably any type of category. Here I went between different categories, but it's really important to understand. Okay, and you get it from experience, you get it from working with studios like us to see what is the addressable market which is relevant. This affects the IPM of your game. Fourth one is the same framework that Graham is using for his analysis is something that we also use a lot by Quantic Foundry, is the gamer motivation model. Okay, so you talked about it a lot, so kind of understanding the type of gamer that we want to attract, what appeals to him. Is it challenge? Is it the social factor? Is it actually like maybe it could be achievement, for example, right? So we look at all of these, and it's a great framework to use. The fifth one is emotion. Okay, so this is a thing that was used a lot this year, like you saw in the beginning. So if it's positive, negative, disgusting even. Okay, so there's some disgusting examples. We mix all 5 together, and we hope we have a good creative concept. And usually we create a good blend. So this is a great example where we took Wildscapes, which is the new game from Playrix. Core mechanics is the same match 3, very saturated, very hard market, right? But we took actually the game itself within the playable into a hidden object mechanic, which is, by the way, doesn't exist in the actual game. Okay, so I'm going to talk about going far away from the game, right? But I see you already like it, right? I'm going to talk about it a lot. You also have questions. We added also challenge, but we made it still calm. You see, there's no timer because we understand that this audience doesn't respond well to pressure and time-based playables from other campaigns that we've run before. And this actually worked really amazing. By the way, you can see today that most of their games, they actually copied the same idea to other games because, again, it appeals to a different audience, a wider audience maybe, okay, this mechanic. I brought 2 examples. Oh, shit, it requests access. Anyway, I will talk about it in a second. Wordscapes was a great way of taking a game which is word-based and taking it into the brain training and the relaxation theme that appealed. It was also about becoming a better person by playing a word game. Okay, so it's a great video. It was a great marketing effort. They shifted all of the marketing to focus only on this. Nobody cares enough about word games that they decided that this is the way that we can approach, and they shifted. It was a great example. Never mind. Take another different example. Okay, so I didn't do this. Just to make clear, John Telagan. This is not okay. This is an example of a game, by the way, doing quite well, called Word Villas. I'll try to deconstruct what we saw here, right? So this is our IPM chart, okay, in the side. So first thing you can see that I think that probably the story part got them 2 IPM. Okay, it's already 2 installs out of 1,000 because the story, it's a weird story, but still it works for them, right? Another 2 is the simulation. Okay, so simulation is great, has a very wide audience, works really well. Another 1 IPM for word game. Okay, it's a bit more competitive, like we saw this mechanic a lot, so I'm guessing it's not something which is very widespread. And another 4 for just being fucking bizarre, or in other words, unique. Okay, so you're seeing so many ad games like again and again and again, and suddenly there's like a weird opening and something that grabs your attention. We can talk about your personal taste, but this is probably what works for them, and this is the number that they're getting to. Okay, so this is kind of a way to understand when we're seeing something like this, why does it work? And the interesting part of this, and this is why I want to show you this one, is because this is a place where someone understood this, okay, and sat down and wrote a GDT on I want all these factors because the marketing will be much better. I want to be very competitive in a very hard market. And this is the actual game. Okay, so all of these parts actually exist in the game. So it's not just marketed as such, but it actually is the game itself. And again, it works for them, and it's a good idea. There's also been a lot of really bad examples this year. Okay, so someone like the disaster theme took over most of the marketing, even for like major franchises like Candy Crush that decided to go with this, which I think, by the way, is noble that they tried. Okay, they took this and they put their pride aside. Also, Playrix, by being one of the most massive IAP titles out there, still decided to understand like we should adapt with the market. But it kind of went too far. There's a really nice YouTube channel called i3 Stars, which has over 100 million views. That's comparing between the actual game and the video and the marketing, right? And he has over almost 100K subscribers. He's probably doing a lot of money out of this. So someone at least is enjoying this side economy. Okay, i3 Stars. Okay, and it became really bizarre. Okay, like this year. I don't want to shame the advertiser, but I think you can guess it's some story related. But we're seeing stuff like this even on Facebook, even on on very big networks running these types of ads. And it probably works to some extent, but we need to remember also about the quality of the users. So this is the continue of the graph that I showed before. In this state, all of these users cohorted for 2 weeks and understood that the amount of users that they're bringing in through that really successful video is really bad LTV users, and then they start dropping bids, and then this video comes back and kind of dies out, okay? So by the way, there's a lot of great stories like this that I can share, but this is also could be the reality when you go too far, when you try to push the conversion so high, but really missing out and not doing it in a smart way. So the idea is to take all of these factors, try to go left, right, up, down from your game, but not to go too far, and not to take it also too far in terms of the actual creative. Okay, so this year there was a lot of really great experimentation. I really think it's really important for all game companies to be very experimental within their marketing, and then even maybe take it back to the game, like we saw in World Villas, right? But do it wisely and without losing it. Again, about doing it wisely, so come with me to the dark side, which is another thing that it was very big this year. A lot of advertisers understood that playables are so great, so why even build them, right? We can just make something that looks like a playable ad or interactive ad. The user tries to play and goes directly to the store. Sensitive subject. Okay, so this stuff are running. You need to know because this stuff are competition in some sort. They understood that. By the way, engagement rate for an average playable is around 60 to 80%. So 80% of users see an ad, a playable ad, they will play. Right? They won't be passive about this. So imagine if I click on the first frame, so it's 80% CTR, right? 80% go to the store, and it works. It became like also a wide variety of this kind of stuff. So fake call to action, next boost, go to the store, is it right or not? Mid-play click, which is a bit less nice. And of course, the full-on tap to start to play, which isn't an actual playable. We, as a creative studio, it hurts our soul, but we want to understand why and what's the effect. And in 2018, you can see that there was a constant rise in CTR, so number of users that go to the store, and a constant drop in engagement rate. So the average users who engage with a playable ad is going down, which is very bad to the industry, right? Because playables work really well for 40%. I showed you in the beginning, right? So we had to invent a very cool feature, right? Which is we added a play me notification and notifications that show the user that this is actually an interactive ad and not a fake one. And it helps us to reclaim 13% back. But again, this is something which is happening, which is very bad. I won't go into this analysis, but there's a lot of times where it's not actually necessary. It's just a lazy way to drive users to the store, get them, and you can do it with much less aggressiveness. But again, it's something which is happening, and the idea is to find the right balance. We, by the way, as a company, we decided this year, a few months ago, we just established like a creative policy because we saw it so widespread. Not less than 7 seconds, not less than 5 clicks, not less than, can't be like fake UI buttons. There's like sometimes you see an ad, it has an X button, which isn't an X button, a lot of really crazy shit, right? So we are enforcing it when we're actually blocking these types of ads, okay? Okay. One of the last things I want to talk about is creative soft launch, which is something I think which is really relevant for companies like you, where you have massive titles that you work on for a long period of time. 2 years ago, we started a program which is called Creative Soft Launch. What we do, we partner with game studios when they are working on the final stages of the game, last like 2 months, when your KPIs already show that this game is probably going to be launched. And we start doing really massive creative testing before the game is actually launched to crack the marketing approach before the game is ready. Something, by the way, that 2 years ago, most companies didn't do. Again, Playrix was one of the first to do this with us, and it was great. I took an example I wanted to show off. It's kind of not relevant to your genre at all, but it's one of the latest ones that we did, and I think it has some things we can learn from it. So we did the creative soft launch for Call of Duty Mobile, which was one of the biggest game launches in I think ever. By the way, you know that this year in 2019, mobile games industry is actually became bigger than the movie industry in the world. Okay, so it was game industry in general, including console, was already bigger than the movie industry, but this year mobile even took that, and these types of launches are also part of it, right? So we started working on this in April of last year. The game was launched in the end of September. We took the game and we did the same process. We broke it down to different marketing themes. to Battle Royale multiplayer, which was the easy one, RPG, and Sniper, okay? The idea around Sniper is that we knew that these types of games on mobile have a very high IPM, very high conversion rate, because users engage with that type of games, they know it. And we took this massive PvP AAA title and we tried to break it down. We did over 21 different creatives. We tested over 2 million impressions. We learned from the in-app data, for example, that 49% of the users choose the zombie game mode, okay, within the ad. Interesting thing, by the way, that Zombie, once was launched, in the actual game, did very, very bad, had very, very low LTV. So now it was removed. It was kind of downgraded within the actual game. But on the marketing, it worked better. Okay, so it's, again, finding the balance between the two was interesting. I talk about the interesting numbers. So we had over 107 million playable sessions playing our playables of Call of Duty. Over 400 million bad guys were shot down within the playable. Okay, so very important stat. And we had 2 million new users in 14 days that we onboarded to Call of Duty through our marketing. This was the actual playable. It's very simple. Okay, it's just like a sniping situation. You're static. It delivered 2x on the IPM that Call of Duty had in the beginning. 80% of their campaigns were playable ads, and it was 100% done by our team. So it was a really cool success. By working for such a long time and trying so many different types of creatives, this was the way to find this type of playable that works really well for them. So the idea and the thing that I think you can take from this is that even a massive title like this was willing to invest a lot of time and testing the marketing, without saying, by the way, something that we heard in the past, like 2 years before, when we did launches like Harry Potter and stuff like this, where that, yeah, it's going to be fine. Like, there's so many people who like the brand, it's going to work, right? So even if you have that situation, or if you don't, and you're building something from scratch, you have to take it into consideration that without cracking marketing, you don't have a viable game. Okay? No matter how the game is great, no matter how, I don't know, TV ads you're running or celebrities using the game. It's a full package of everything together. To finish, a bit to talk about in-house teams. Who's here from a creative team? In the back. Why are you outside? Okay, so from our partners, this is how it looks like. 44% don't have in-house teams. Okay, 36% have a small, medium in the back team there, right? And 90% have a very strong in-house studio. Okay, and all of this I think popped out in 2019. So 2017 in games, nobody talked about creative. 2018, some started doing creatives, mainly outsourcing. 2019, most of the serious game companies took it in-house. All of them. I can start mentioning the names, but within that 19%, there's a lot of really strong companies that build in-house teams for creative, and you can start with 1, 2, 3, 4 people and take it up. To help them, so we also switched mode. This is the amount of creatives that we're getting, playables, that we're getting from our partners. We developed a tool that allows them to use in-app analytics like we use for our creatives called Nucleo. And we're launching this dashboard within 2 months that will allow you to analyze and improve their creative, focused 100% on creative to help them succeed. We did some testing. These are the companies who are using it now in beta. And we already collected over 1 billion events, and we're producing manual reports of like statistics on what to improve, where is the drop-off within the tutorial of the playable, within the end card, or during the experience. And this is a specific example where we took a playable, series title, Sausage Flip. I have also better examples. and we improved the drop-off from the first screen. And the intent to install went up, improving the whole playable, taking something that you invest a lot in it instead of throwing it, okay? So the same attention and care that you use for your onboarding within the game, you take it to your creative. Okay, that's the idea. And this is what we try to help game teams which are not internal. So it was also said before, I highly want to stress this, that data-driven creative is a core capability today. of a successful game company. So anything that you can do within your game teams, if you're a game designer, so have that marketing discussion in the beginning. Who are we addressing? How big is the audience? Okay, which feature will help us attract more users? Like the example that we saw in World Villas is very, very critical. Okay, so to summarize, so we have a bit time for questions. First is creative is one of the most important levers today. Talked about it a lot. You can leverage emotion and motivation and also choosing the right addressable market to improve your conversion. You should, and this is what all great companies do today, explore beyond your game, but not take it too far. And by the way, you'll be surprised how far you can go from your game and still going to be fine. I can give you a quick, nice example. So one of the questions I'm asked all the time about how far can you go from your game mechanics. Okay, so let's take the burning kitchen example from this game, right? So there are two effects to this. First of all, you get a lot more users coming in because it appeals to a wider audience. It's negative, it has some urgency, so it grabs attention of more people are coming in. A lot of people are also leaving, but more than coming from a very targeted, very small message. So this is one. Second, so once they install the game and they play it and they found out the kitchen isn't burning, what's happening, right? So a few of them go to the store, they put 1 star and say, what the fuck? This is not what I downloaded, right? This is one. But a lot of other users are actually waiting to see when is the kitchen going to be on fire. Okay? And this is something I heard from a lot of of clients that they actually even talk about it, that, okay, I saw this thing in the game, it's very advanced probably, I'm not there yet. And they stay, and then they become hooked to the game, and it doesn't matter. They forget about this, right? So you can be surprised how far you can take it, okay? And it's again, keeping it within reasonable and not being offensive, it's very, very important to experiment. Don't launch until you're ready. Okay, so it's not about just the game design, not just about the LTV, the retention. It's about also the marketing. You have to take it into consideration. If you didn't start yet, build an in-house team. You're also outside again. And if all other fails, use Trump. Okay, so this is like the thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Questions for Dan?
As a backup through another questions, I always have questions. One thing is about this kind of ad quality or kind of fraudulent.
The what?
Ads. Fraudulent ads,
yes.
Kind of like click here to play and it's actually just go to the store.
Yes.
Do you as an industry talk to each other about that? Because I think it hurts us as pubs because the players think that we are deciding what ads are shown in our game and they go to the App Store and complain about that. So.
Correct. So it's a great question. I forgot the actual term for it. There's a term about collectively you hurt each other instead of helping each other. Forgot there's like a term for it in economics. But what's happening is like this: there are multiple players in the industry, right? Multiple networks, multiple channels. So you have the big ones. You have Google, Facebook, ironSource, which are the ones who have the ability to deny fraudulent ad. But there's also a lot of smaller networks out there, smaller channels that don't have the privilege of denying a campaign, okay? And it's very hard to coordinate. We've done forums like this in the past to try to get into an agreement, but you just can't. So what we try to do is in our court is at least to keep it as good as possible and talk about this. This is why I also talk about this and I show it in every discussion that we have, also in GameFest when we had all of the industry in one room. So people understand it has an effect. But it's the reality is it's very hard to control a multiplayer ecosystem where you have very different interests. And by the way, game companies that could say like, listen, my game company is closed tomorrow if I stop this campaign. So how you can tell like which company is gonna go? Game companies going to go bankrupt because of this. So it's not just a network or a media thing, right? You have into very tricky situations with companies who say, listen, if you close this, we're out of money, right? So
Maybe you should be then, if you can't market your product in a way that's actually honest, or.
Again, we do our best. We have actually a policy for this.
Yeah.
The other companies don't have even a policy on what is okay and what is not. We try to do it like an app store way. We have very strict, and then yeah.
I have another question as well on IPMs versus ROAS.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know, like, because you have ROAS optimizer, like UA
Correct.
stuff, right?
Right.
So if you can rate the ads on ROAS instead of IPM, because IPM is not actually the end goal, right?
Right.
So this video you showed, like getting tons of traffic, but not really working out in the end. Have you looked at kind of formats for optimal ROAS instead of optimal?
Yeah. So first of all,
IPM?
of course, it is always ROAS based. That's the reality. IPM is just like a simpler metric to understand what works. We need to understand that sometimes also a very high IPM ad could have just a lower ROAS goal, right? So you're taking actually a wider audience, but you're paying much less because the IPM is higher, right? So your ROAS goal is lower for that specific cohort. So there is always a balance between the two. When we try to simplify it, then we talk about IPMs. But it is a combination.
Yeah, it's an important thing for an ad creative team to think about, that IPM is not the end goal, right?
No, we don't work by IPM at all as a team. We work as a ROAS. We work with the goals of the advertiser. Yes.
I like your slide with the bulls and the dragons, if you remember that slide.
Yes.
How do you figure out how big each of those markets is?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually, again, this is a simplified version of just our experience and in terms of specific marketing themes, okay, how wide they're appealing, and also the specific genres, for example, right? There is no actual like a number for this. The idea there is that it's really hard. Sometimes it's very hard to understand why specific games, which are so low quality, low art, right, very basic, like a bouncing ball, is working so well. So the idea there is to explain that it's a it's like a lower common denominator. So it appeals to like a very wide audience. And you need to remember all the time that what you're doing has an appeal to a certain size of audience. And don't forget that, right? And it's also sometimes very driven by a specific taste. It's like the team that does like a hardcore game, and the other one thinks it's a midcore, right? It's personal taste driven. So you forget about the audience, forget about the market, right? So that was the idea around this.
Okay, last question from me. What's the advice for us working in word and puzzle? What are the trends coming up, and what do you think we should focus on?
Yeah, so I think word and puzzles is one of the categories where you have really high quality users, really high retention once you get the users, but the pool is very. It's not small, but it's very specific, and there is a lot of competition, right? There's a lot of copycats that are coming in. And what we saw there is that the game mechanic becomes more and more saturated, so it's harder to appeal with just the gameplay. And I'm sure that you're also feeling it, right? So what are we seeing from the marketing perspective, but actually what is more interesting, what we're seeing from the game perspective is a mixture of mechanics, right? So we're seeing more and more experimentation. I forgot the name of the game. It was really nice that now did like a pop mechanic with a word game combined. Okay, which again, it's a question of execution. It could be a great idea and terrible in the actual gameplay, but they said they want to appeal to a wider audience with a pop mechanic, but still appeal to the word-loving audience, right? Because it's high quality, high retention, you can build a company around this, right? So what I'm seeing as a trend is a lot of combination of mechanics within words and puzzles, also around Zynga and a lot of like interesting things which are happening. So I think it's very worth experimenting beyond like the standard like the word mechanic.
Great. All right, thanks a lot, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you.